Welcome to the Astrological Weather Report. My name is Daniel Fiverson. You can learn about my work and follow my frequent blogs on my website, evolutionaryastrology.net, and here in the EA Zoom community. I want to thank you all for taking the time to listen to these reports, but I especially want to thank Sue and Robin, who have carried on the work of Linda Johnson so diligently and made these recordings available. Saturn has been churning the winds of change in Aquarius since the end of 2020. Since then, the worldwide spread of COVID-19 and its self-mutating variants have shattered our sense of normalcy. In the United States, the Capitol riot and exposure of malfeasance at the highest level of government has politically splintered the nation. Europe has been drawn to the precipice of a nuclear confrontation in Ukraine. In Asia, an active Chinese agenda is attempting to reset the balance of power in the region. In the last 3 years, we have witnessed a much different world emerge. On March 7, 2023, Saturn, the god of time, authority, generation, agriculture, aging, and mastery, will enter the fluid, effusive, boundaryless domain of Pisces. What omens will we encounter hidden in such a boundless, watery abyss? Saturn repeats a transit through each sign approximately every 29 years. In 1759, the British and French fought for control of the New World. The event polarized the politics of the American colonies and presaged the American Revolution. George Washington became the first president of the United States. The social experiment, which we call democracy, was born as the first modern nation to attempt government by the governed. In France, the Declaration of Human Rights sparked the French Revolution, overthrowing the monarchy and establishing the first republic in Europe since the Classical Age. In 1818, author Mary Shelley, a woman writing under her own name, penned Frankenstein, a book destined to become a literary classic. The Mexican-American War erupted in 1846, doubling the size of the fledgling American Republic. The discovery of gold in California actualized the American ideology of manifest destiny and started what would become a national migratory nature. The Seneca Falls Convention marked the beginning of the women's rights movement in the United States. In Eastern Europe, the Communist Manifesto laid the groundwork for the Russian Revolution, which would begin 2 Saturn Pisces transits later in 1905. In 1876, the Indian Wars that led to the genocide and forced removal of the Native American population were sparked by the Battle of Little Bighorn. In 1964, the Beatles stepped off a plane in New York and sent an entire generation on a journey of Eastern mysticism, peace, and universal love. In 1993, the tunnel under the English Channel, now called the Channel, changed the demographics of Western Europe. Here we are, 29 years later. With one eye in the rearview mirror, we begin to gaze forward to fathom the future. Saturn correlates to the principle of expansion, in contrast to Jupiter's principle of expansion. Did I say contraction? Yes. In contrast to Jupiter's principle of expansion. Saturn creates crystallized forms that support the foundation of life. In our birth charts, it structures our consciousness, formatting each of the other planets according to its aspect or phase relationship with them. We tend to think of Saturn as yang, male. In truth, it is the opposite. Capricorn The sign associated with Saturn is Yin, energy moving inward towards the center. It is involution. As the Jewish mystics believed, Shekinah, the Divine Mother, correlating to the vessel of spirit, the quote, glory of divine presence. Saturn correlates to authority. Capricorn correlates to the to the 10th house. The 10th house refers to the authority figure, which traditionally is the father. There's no real consensus about that among astrologers, as some confer the mother to that house in a natal chart. I've come to understand that it works either way, describing the authority figure in the household. In many cultures, matriarchy is still the norm. The nature and circumstances of the authority figure in our childhood pattern our sense of who we are and how we will emotionally develop over time. As the principle of contraction, Saturn presupposes our personal outreach with others and our innate expression of who we are and how we project ourselves in the world. Our collective experience as well, politically and economically, is foreshadowed by Saturn. Saturn is gravity. It's the force that connects us to the earth. It is why we feel the weight of Saturn. As we enter Pisces, the last sign of the zodiac, we complete the circle. It is, however, the enso, the existentially incomplete circle, never at finality, always an empty space to span and begin anew. In Zen, an enso, which means circular form, is a circle that is hand-drawn in one or two uninhibited brushstrokes to express a moment when the mind is free and to let the body create. The enso symbolizes absolute enlightenment, strength, elegance, the universe, and mu, the void. Astrologically, Pisces corresponds to the infinite, that which has no beginning and no end. It is the element of water whose boundaries are fluid, adapting to its environment. Water must fill up each space it passes through before it can move on. The water triad traces the evolution of consciousness from self-awareness in Cancer to subconscious awareness in Scorpio to immersion into the collective consciousness in Pisces. In human life, Pisces is the mystic and the medium, the martyr, the savior, and the saint. It is surrender, fantasy, dreams, and illusion. Pisces is the process of immersion into which is greater than ourselves. The archetype provides experiences that teach us that we are not just a single wave, we are an infinitesimal part of a much larger ocean. Pisces teaches us the lessons of ultimate truth as opposed to relative truth, and unconditional love as opposed to conditional love. Many of the aspects we're going to look at today are challenging. I think we will all agree that the time we are passing through is probably one of the most challenging periods of our lives. The challenges we face are the stimulus for our personal growth. As we get older, we increasingly appreciate the challenges we have had to face as catalysts for change. I believe that it is a blessing to live in interesting times. Let's remember that as we're looking at Saturn. He teaches us mastery and skills, but only if we do the work. Pisces is a transcendental archetype because there are habits and behaviors we must learn to transcend. That being said, here's my forecast for the transit of Saturn through Pisces. In each moment of time, in each moment, all of time is revealed. Thomas Wolfe, Look Homer an Angel. Saturn will transit Pisces from March 7, 2023 to February 13, 2026. A planetary ingress imprints the template of the entire transit. Saturn will ingress Aries briefly on May 24, 2025, near the end of its transit, and then return on September 1st, 2025, into February 2026. The outer planets play major roles at many of the significant points of Saturn's 3-year transit. However, only Jupiter and Pluto will perfect to Saturn. Jupiter will semi-square Saturn once on May 21st, 2023. Jupiter will then square Saturn 3 times, August 19th and December 24th of 2024, and then again on June 15th of 2025. Saturn will semi-square Pluto 3 times, May 6th and September 25th of 2024, and January 26th of 2025. At the March ingress, Pluto in Capricorn and Jupiter in Aries overshadow the ingress. Capricorn is Saturn's own sign. Aries forms a natural crisis-producing square to Capricorn. An encouraging trine from Mars in capricious Gemini hints at impulsiveness and self-perpetuating dialogues. These dynamics suggest a struggle with authority and difficult lessons. Excuse me. The lunar nodes are activated, encouraging reconciliation between the past and the future. Pluto can take us down into our own underworld, the subconscious repository of the personal and collective traumas we have buried there. How are we exercising our own personal power with others? What boundaries have been crossed that cause our power to be compromised? How has impulsiveness created wounding experiences? Where is the balance between self-interest and common cause? On June 17th, Saturn will station retrograde at 7 degrees Pisces, 12 minutes stationed retrograde. At the station retrograde, a balsamic dark of the moon portends unresolved issues pertaining to the perception of what is truth and what is simply opinion. Jupiter is magnetized to the lunar nodes in Taurus and Scorpio. The future slips in and out of focus, morphing, expanding, and contracting. Old resentments can resurface with fierce intensity. Venus in Leo, ruler of the lunar north node, challenges Saturn, revealing the blind spots in our self-development. Eris in Aries struggles with Saturn to be less diffuse and to become more self-aware. Do our words and our deeds resonate with each other? Personal authenticity runs the gamut from patient and kind to uncontrolled belligerence, verbal and otherwise. On November 4th, 2023, a yod, a finger of God, points at Saturn's station direct at 0 Pisces 2 minutes. From Cancer Moon and Venus in Virgo, emotions run high, crises erupt. Discernment is necessary to avoid power struggles and conflict. Personalities threaten to become negatively ego-driven. As Mercury in Scorpio opposes Saturn in Taurus retrograde in crisis mode to Saturn, harsh words can fly through the airwaves like poison arrows. Saturn continues to struggle with Pluto. Authority is questioned. Wounding experiences erupt. On May 6, 2024, Saturn, On May 6, 2024, Saturn is again challenged by Pluto in Aquarius. Boundaries are shattered and ideologies hunker down in an effort to effectuate change. A clash of personalities causes progressivism and regression to collide, defying attempts at compromise. Dialogues are filled with wounded words and feelings. Compromise dissolves. Neptunian disillusion reaches its peak at the 29-degree anaretic degree of Pisces. Interpersonal struggles expose intense, intractable personal biases. The past comes back to haunt us in some way, as the lunar south node in Libra, stationed retrograde, challenges Saturn's authority. 1 week later, on June 29th, Saturn will make its second station retrograde at 19 degrees Pisces, 25 minutes. An Aries moon struggles to understand resentful Eris's scheming behavior. Venus revisits personal and collective values and priorities. Discussions become sincere and heartfelt. On August 19th, 2024, Jupiter, in close company with Mars and Gemini, perfects to a crisis in consciousness square to Saturn retrograde. An ideological clash occurs as dreams collide with reality. The distance between collective priorities and personal values is exposed. Pluto continues to add his weight to the conflict. Saturn stations direct on November 15th, 2024 at 12 degrees Pisces, 41 minutes. We can feel caught in a vortex between opposing political and social cosmologies. Pluto again throws his authoritative weight into the ongoing crises, occupying the final cathartic degree of Capricorn. The projection of personality is up close and personal. The moon, agitated by Uranus and reclusive Taurus, intensifies the need for emotional security. Jupiter retrograde in Gemini adds verbal fuel to the fire. On December 24th, on December 24th, 2024, Jupiter retrograde squares Saturn again. Mars, retrograde in Leo, gets vertical with attitude and self-importance. A Libra moon is emotionally out of balance. Mercury adds grandiose verbosity. Pluto is still trying to upset the apple cart and call the shots. On January 26, 2025, Saturn semi-squares Pluto a second time. The struggle over who is in authority continues. Jupiter retrograde separates from the conflict, but difficult events continue to unfold. Mars retrograde in Cancer begins to reconsider previous behavior. On April 21st, 2025, Jupiter joins up with the lunar north node in Pisces. Both are in close company with Neptune in Aries, the ruler of the lunar north node. Venus is in close company as well, as is Mars conjunct Neptune in Aries. This 5-planet stellium is a celestial counterweight, locomotive energy driving the moment. An aura of fate and destiny hangs in the air. Mars, Jupiter, Uranus, and Eros are all in play. A fierce, impulsive, vocalized, hunkered down frequency pervades the zeitgeist. A battle for the future rages. On May 24th, 2025, Saturn moves into Aries. The Pisces influence continues, however, as Saturn meets up with Neptune, just beginning to warm up to Mars and his martial energies. The Lord of Time is still reeling from his recent meetup with the lunar north node in Pisces. Jupiter is still throwing his weight around with Saturn. Mars has not lost his bluster midway through Leo. Mercury is in close company with Uranus and Taurus, the mouthpiece for finally laying the groundwork to establish what is essential for personal, collective, and planetary survival. On June 15, 2025, Jupiter makes its third square to Saturn. Saturn is up close and personal with Neptune in Aries. Saturn remains an active player, pressuring Pluto remains an active player, pressuring Saturn and Neptune. Mars, at the anaretic last degree of Leo, stresses Saturn, and the result is an overload of ego and self-interest. On July 31st, 2025, Saturn makes its last retrograde station of the transit at 1 degree Aries, 56 minutes. A review of all of the previous issues and events of the entire transit is on the table. An Aquarius moon shakes things up as well. On September 1st, 2025, Saturn will re-enter Pisces. The pressures from Pluto and Eris are receding and have begun to open the opportunities for crises to be healed. Venus and Mercury in Leo open the way for priorities to be voiced. A Sagittarius moon brings higher wisdom to the discussion. On November 27th, 2025, Saturn stations direct at 25 degrees Pisces, 9 minutes. Neptune retrograde is in close company. A facilitating water grand trine from Mercury, Venus, and Jupiter retrograde opens the door for emotional healing through discussion, inner work, actualizing personal values, and having compassion for self and others. Eris retrograde shakes what has become stuck. Mars offers higher choices. The takeaway is to surrender. Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter will have their way. We cannot win with force. Only the exercise of personal power will succeed. Let go of expectations, even as you continue to dream the future. Man plans and God laughs. Stay the course. When you feel oppressed by the way things are going, ask your angels and guides for help. They are waiting for your call. Thank you again for taking the time out of your busy day to listen to what I have said. Here is my contact information. I encourage feedback on what I have presented so that I can deliver to you information that you can use. Namaste.